please. On the way to church this morning, Katie and I passed the roadside display that's there as you come into Union from the Belfair side. It has a little different display for every season of the year. Somebody keeps it up. I don't know who. And we've seen all kinds of displays there: plastic flowers and hearts for Valentine's Day, and shamrocks and leprechauns for St. Patrick's Day. And this morning we saw bunnies and flowers for Easter Day, I guess. I guess that's the way they mark Easter, although I didn't see a cross or an empty tomb. It's really nice what they do there, and I appreciate it. Someone puts a lot of work into it, obviously, and it's a really nice way for the community to mark, the different seasons of the year. But it makes me wonder, is that all there is? Hearts and flowers and shamrocks and leprechauns?
What's wrong with leprechauns?
The leprechauns are from St. Patrick's. I feel sorry for those who don't share our Christian faith. If you don't believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus, you fall back on things like hearts and flowers and shamrocks and leprechauns. Sort of a hallmark way of life. You mark the seasons of your life by whatever's on the shelves at Walmart. I know a lot of people don't believe in the Christian faith. They've been turned off for one reason or another, sometimes good reasons. So they go searching through the internet to find a substitute. A little bit of Druidism here and some Buddhism there and self-help guru here. We want a little magic to help us through life, and the internet is glad to provide it. But where's the depth? Dabbling in religion doesn't really give you much depth. To me, Christianity has a deep well of meaning and purpose. It's not something somebody thought up yesterday, but it's been around for centuries, for millennia. This morning in our New Testament readings, we hear the core message of the early church. Paul is writing to the church in Corinth in our second lesson. He says, "I remind you, brothers and sisters, of the good news that I received and handed on to you, namely that Christ died for our sins, was buried, he was raised from the dead, and he appeared to us." Paul is worried about the Corinthians that they've forgotten the core message of the Christian faith. They've gotten sidetracked with arguments and controversies, and he worries that they forgot about the main thing, that Christ died, was buried, he was raised, and he appeared. That's the basic message of the early church. It's sometimes called the kerygma by scholars. Death and resurrection, two very powerful symbols for humanity. So let's think for a moment about death and resurrection. One of the unfortunate things about the human race is that we tend to justify our bad behavior by projecting it onto someone else and then blaming them and trying to discredit or destroy or kill them. We create a scapegoat, and then we feel justified by blaming the scapegoat or getting rid of the scapegoat. There are too many examples of this to mention. The very first murder in the Bible, where Cain killed Abel, is an example. Joseph and his brothers, and of course Jesus, who is the ultimate scapegoat. But also, think of Hitler and the Jews. Think of the Hutus and the Tutsis. If I can convince you that there's an enemy out there, then I can get your loyalty. But the gospel message is that in Jesus, this came to an end. Jesus was the ultimate scapegoat in the sense that the religious authorities projected their anger and dysfunction and bitterness onto Jesus, and then they had him killed. Crucify him. But God vindicated Jesus by raising him from the dead. The victim became the victor. By raising Jesus from the dead, God said, in effect, no more victims. So this is the message of the Christian faith. Instead of punishment, God offers forgiveness. Instead of hatred, God offers love. Instead of alienation, God offers community. No more victims. No more outcasts. No more scapegoats. In our first lesson this morning, Peter is speaking to people who have never heard of Jesus. Cornelius is a Roman centurion, and he's curious about this new religion, and he's asked Peter to come to speak to him and his household. So Peter gathers the whole household, and he says, I truly understand now that God shows no partiality, but everyone is acceptable to God. This is the message, that Jesus is Lord of all. All. Peter says, I am a witness to Jesus. They hung him on a tree, but God raised him from the dead and allowed him to appear to us as witnesses. He died, was raised, he appeared. And now all people are acceptable to God. That's why we have that banner out there on the road. It says, everyone is welcome here. Jesus is Lord of all. You know, humanity cannot afford to keep making scapegoats and destroying them. Our weapons are too powerful. Our ability to destroy is too great. Our earth is too fragile. Our children are too precious. Our neighbors are too important to us. So no more scapegoats. No more victims. No more bullying. God raised Jesus from the dead to end the cycle of blame and punishment, of hatred and war. Our psalm today, Psalm 118, puts it this way. The stone that was rejected has now become the chief cornerstone. You know, in Jesus' time, when they built the house, they gathered all the rocks together to make the house. And they chose the biggest stones to make the foundation, because all the smaller stones are going to be stacked on top of the foundation stones. And they chose the very biggest and strongest stone to be the cornerstone, the one they started with, that the whole foundation was laid, connected to. The cornerstone anchors the whole foundation. Well, Jesus is the rock that was rejected. He was arrested, he was tried, he was condemned and crucified. He was rejected by humans, but he was chosen by God and raised by God. And now he is the chief cornerstone of our faith. So what is the cornerstone of your life? What is the basis of your foundation? Choose carefully. Will it be bunnies? Or will it be Jesus Christ, the Lord of all?